Yeah, so we want now to check that question on before the right issue. So we are looking at the question for August 2022, question number 2, part C. We are continuing to the Roman letter 3. So before the right issue, we get the percentage of ownership. You want to know what is the percentage of ownership. What is the percentage of ownership? So percentage of ownership, what you do, you take his current number of ordinary shares. Currently, he has 5,000 shares. Currently, he has 5,000 shares. Then, you remember the total number of the shares in the company? Total number of the shares in the company. The total number of the shares in the company. You see, the share capital of the company comprises of 10 million ordinary shares, which have above value of 10. So you divide by 10 million ordinary shares. We divide by 10 million ordinary shares. Then we express it as a percentage. Then we express it as a percentage. So that is now his percentage of ownership. That will be his percentage of ownership in that firm before the right issue. Then we should also come up with what is the wealth status. What should be the wealth status? So wealth status, to know his wealth, we start with the value of the shares. Value of the shares. We start off with the value of the shares. So he has got 5,000 shares. He has 5,000 shares. So we value them at the current market price. So remind me, what is the current market price per share? We had calculated them. Just give me the prices. We had computed the offer price and the current market price. So what was there as the current market price? Just a reminder, because I don't have the figure. So just check what we did in the last class and give me what was the current market price per share, because we calculated it. Market, before we got the offer price, we had calculated the market price.
11.9.
Sorry?
11.9.
11.9.
Yeah.
So you multiply by 11.9. Then you also add the savings account. You also add the savings account. So when you check through the question, this person had some money in the savings account. He had some money in the savings account. That money in the savings account was 15,000. It was 15,000. So when you add them together, you get now the total wealth. When you add them together, you will be able to get the total wealth. So when you add them, you get the total wealth. And that is now the position of the investor before the right issue. That's now the position of the investor before the right issue. So after that, I want us now to check after the right issue. I want us now to check after the right issue. So after the right issue, we do some workings. After the right issue, we need to do some workings in relation to that. After the right issue, I will do some workings in relation to that. So we now check after the right issue. So we checked after the right issue. We now check after the right issue. So after the right issue, among the workings we shall be doing, we get the total shares of the company. We first of all get the total shares in the company, total shares in the company. We need to come up with the total number of the shares in the company after the right issue. So total number of the shares in the company after the right issue, total number of the shares in the company after the right issue. The question had given you the exchange ratio. The question has given the number of the rights. The number of the rights are the same as the exchange ratio. If you check through the question, they were able to give you what are meant to be the number of the rights. Where they say that where they say at the end of the first paragraph, you can see they say that the board of the directors of the company has decided to finance the company's expansion program by raising funds from existing shareholders through a 1-for-4 rights. So for every 4 shares, those are the number of the rights. They issue 1 new share. They issue 1 new share. So the number of the rights are there in the first paragraph, where they have said that for every 4 shares, they will issue 1 new share. For every 4 shares, they issue 1 new share. So the company had 10 million. It had 10 million ordinary shares. So it issued how many new shares? So to get the new shares to be issued, you simply cross multiply. You get 10 millions multiplied by 1 divided by 4. So when you take 10 million multiplied by 1 divided by 4, we simply cross multiply to get the total shares to be issued. So to get the total shares to be issued. What I'm computing here is the number of the shares to be issued. We are computing number of the shares should be issued. We are computing number of the shares to be issued. So when you cross multiply, what are you coming up with? When you cross multiply, you are getting which figure?
2.5.
2.5 million shares. So it is 2.5 million shares. So total shares. So total shares will now be, the total shares will now be 10 millions plus 2.5 millions. 10 millions plus 2.5 millions, which is supposed to be 12.5 millions. Which is supposed to be 12.5 millions. So that now gives you the total number of the shares. So once we have the total number of the shares, we should also compute total shares. We should also be able to compute the total shares for the investor. We also need to get the total shares of the investor. Total shares of the investor. We also compute total shares of the investor. So to get the total number of the shares for the investor, to get the total number of the shares of the investor, we know that for every 4 shares, you get 1 new share. For every 4 shares, you get 1 new share. So this investor had 5,000 shares. He had 5,000 shares. So in the process, he received how many shares. We also cross multiply. We shall simply cross multiply, where we also get 5,000 multiplied by 1 divided by 4. 5,000 multiplied by 1 divided by 4. So that should give us how many shares? So it will give you how many shares? So when you cross multiply, you are getting how many shares?
1,250.
Sorry?
1,250.
Yeah, so total shares now will be, the total shares will now be 5,000. Then you add 1,250. So it's going to have 6250. 6250. So once we have done that, that's now the information we have after the right issue. So we are now answering the Roman letter 3. When he exercised all his rights, what will be the position? We are now in option 3. When now we exercise all the rights, what is the position of the investor? What will be now the position of the investor? So we are now exercise the rights. So Roman letter 3, option 3. Option 3, we have said that exercise the rights. Exercise all his rights. Exercise all his rights. So we start by getting the percentage of ownership. We start off by computing the percentage of ownership. So percentage of ownership, after the right issue, the investor has a total of 6250 shares. But total number of shares in the company are 12.5 million. So confirm that percentage of ownership. So check that percentage of ownership, whether it is remaining the same as before the right issue or it is changing. So get that percentage of ownership. Then now you compare with the one before. So get the percentage of ownership and compare with the before to see what figure are you coming up with. So is it the same as the one before the right issue? The percentage of ownership must be the same as the one before the right issue. Yeah, it will not change. Percentage of ownership will always remain the same. Then apart from the percentage of ownership, we should also compute the wealth status. We also want to know the wallet status. So under the wallet status, we start off with value of the shares. Value of the shares. We start off with the value of the shares. So to get the value for the shares, he has 6250 shares. He has 6250 shares. So those shares, after the right issue, all the shares are valued at the theoretical X right price. After the right issue, all the shares are valued at the theoretical X right price. So confirm in the Roman letter 1 confirm in the Roman letter 1, what was there as the theoretical ex-right price? When you check in the Roman letter 1, we calculated the theoretical ex-right price. We got which figure?
11.305.
11.305.
305.
So it was 11.305. So you multiply by 11.305. So after the right issue, all shares will be valued at the theoretical ex-right price. After the right issue, all shares will be valued at the theoretical ex-right price. So we come up with that figure. So now after that, we also add the savings in the account. We add savings in account. So savings account, it was 15,000. That one, it will not change. That one would not change. Then you also less the cost of the rights. We less cost of the rights. We minus the cost of the rights. So cost of the rights, he acquired 1250 shares. He acquired 1,250 shares. So we value them at the offer price. So confirm under our workings, what was the offer price? We calculated the subscription of the offer price. We got which figure?
8.925.
Sorry?
8.925.
8.925.
Yes.
So this one you subtract so that you get now the net wealth. You get the net wealth. You subtract that figure so that you get the net wealth. So I want you to confirm whether you will get the same figure as the one before the right issue. Check that wealth to confirm whether it is the same as the one before the right issue. So it will be the same as the figure you got before the right issue. So when you exercise the rights, so this one should be option 1, not option 3. This one is option 1. Option 1 is exercise all these rights. It is the Roman letter 3 of the question, but there are normally 3 options. So we have dealt with the first option. Option 1 is to exercise all his rights. So let us now go to the Roman letter 4, which is the same as option 2. Option 2 is now sell all his rights. Option 2 will now be sell all his rights. So we now check Roman letter 4 is the same as our option 2. Our option 2 is now our Roman letter 4. That option 2 is sell all his rights. Sell all his rights. Sell all his rights. So when he sell all his rights, he sold the 1,250 shares. So the percentage of ownership, we start off with the percentage of ownership. So percentage of ownership will be, he sold the 1,200. So he will be left with the original shares that he had. He had 5,000 shares. But even if we sell these shares, total shares in the company will not change. They will still remain 12.5 millions. It will just be 12.5 million. So when you calculate, you will discover that percentage of ownership will reduce. If you compute, that percentage of ownership will reduce. That percentage of ownership is going to reduce. So the percentage of ownership will be able to reduce. So are you able to see that the percentage of ownership has gone down when you sell the rights? It has gone down to what percent? If you are getting 0.0, you are getting 0.04%. So the percentage of ownership will reduce in case you sell the rights. So apart from the percentage of ownership, there will be now also the wallet status. So for the wallet status, we start the value of the remaining shares. We start off with the value of the remaining shares. The value of the remaining shares, you will be left with the 5,000 shares you had before. But after the right issue, all shares are valued at the theoretical ex-right price, which was 11.305. I suspect that was the figure. Then we add sale of the rights. We add the sale of the rights. So he sold the 1250. But when he sell, he would still sell them at the theoretical ex-right price, which is 11.305. Then we also add the savings account. We also add the savings account. Remember his savings account, it had 15,000 shillings. His savings account had 15,000 shillings. Then we less cost of the rights. So cost of the rights, he acquired 1250 shares. So these ones, you buy them at the offer price. That one, you buy them at the offer price. So you had given me that figure. Just remind me, what was that offer price?
8.925.
8.925.
Yes.
8.925. So this one, I say you subtract. This one, I say you subtract, so that you now get the net wealth. So that you come up with the net wealth. So when you compare that figure with the one before the right issue, it has not changed. It has remained the same. It has not changed. So are you able to see that the wallet status will remain? The wallet status will remain the same as before the right issue. Is it the case on your side? Is it the case on your side? You just confirm. Yeah, it will not change. So finally, we go to the Roman letter 3, which is Roman letter 5, which is the same as option 3. When you ignore the right issue, we now check option 3. When we ignore the right issue, so we now check option 3. So we check option 3 when we ignore the right issue. We now check option 3 when we ignore the right issue. So our Roman letter 5 is meant to be option 3. When you ignore the right issue, ignores the right issue. When we ignore the right issue. So when we ignore the right issue, we start by computing the percentage of ownership. So he did not participate in the right issue. You will only have the 5,000, but total shares in the company are still 12.5 million. He did not participate in the right issue. When you don't participate in the right issue, your shares will be taken up by other shareholders. Your shares will be taken up by other shareholders. So percentage of ownership will be in that manner. So that is now when it comes to the percentage of ownership. And when it comes to the wallet status, we start by getting value of the shares. So value for the shares, he did not participate in the right issue. You will only be having the 5,000 shares at 11.305. We get the value for that. Then we shall also be required now to add the savings account. Savings account. So savings account, this one remains the same. It was 15,000. So when you add the two, you get the net wealth. When you add the two, you get now the net wealth. So he did not participate in the right issue. When you don't participate in the right issue, there will be no cost for the rights. Also, there will be no changes in terms of, there will be changes in terms of the percentage of ownership. Percentage of ownership will go down. The wallet status will also go down. That's now when you are not, or you ignore the right issue. So that is now how you are meant to do the evaluation. So from there, we need now to give the advice. We need now to give the advice. Which option are you going to select? So what you do, you compare before and after, mostly percentage of ownership and then the wallet status. So when you check before and after, when you are on option 1, that's Roman letter 3. When you exercise the right, there were no changes in the percentage of ownership and the wallet status. But option 2, which is your Roman letter 4, which is meant to be your Roman letter 4, we have seen that you are able to see that there will be a decrease in the percentage of ownership, but the wallet status will remain. But when you go to option 3, which is now your Roman letter 5, both percentage of ownership and the wallet status have decreased. That's now the advice we get from there. So we can now make a conclusion by summarizing that the best option the best option is to exercise the rights. The best option is to exercise the rights. The best option is to exercise the rights because the percentage of ownership, under the wallet status, percentage of ownership and the wallet status, percentage of ownership and the wallet status after the right issue, comma, remains the same as before the right issue. It remains the same as before the right issue. It remains the same as before the right issue. So remember, when you exercise, the percentage of ownership and the wallet status will remain as before the right issue. Then maybe you can add there another paragraph by noting that, however, if you sell the rights, comma, percentage of ownership will decrease. The percentage of ownership will decrease, but the wallet status will remain the same. So percentage of ownership will decrease, but the wallet status will remain the same. The percentage of ownership will reduce, but the wallet status will remain the same. Then another paragraph, we summarize that if you ignore the right issue, both the percentage of ownership, comma, both the percentage of ownership and the wallet status will decrease. Both the percentage of ownership and the wallet status will decrease. Both the percentage of ownership and the wallet status will decrease. Both the percentage of ownership and the wallet status will decrease. So I also want us to go to the question. The other question I want us to check is September 2021. You confirm whether we did the question. September 2021, question 3, part B. September 2021, question number 3, part B. September 2021, question 3, part B. It is on page 18. Confirm for me whether we have done that question. Just confirm whether we have done the question. Confirm whether we have done the question 3, part B. The one for September 2021. Anyone to confirm? So we can now go through the question. We can now go through that question for September 2021, question number 3, part B. September 2021, question number 3, part B. So that question 3, part B for September 2021, they had said that Hakika Limited is a newly listed company in the local securities exchange. Is a newly listed company in the local securities exchange. So the company has 1 million ordinary shares trading at shillings 49.5 per share to finance a restructuring exercise. The company would require 7,855,000 to raise the amount. The company intends to issue 145 right issue. Those are now the number of the rights. The number of the rights are 5 shares. So for every 5 shares that you have, you will be getting 1 new share for every 5. So the subscription price was given as 39 per share. The finance manager has projected that upon restructuring, the company's annual cash inflows will increase by shillings 965,965,000. So in the previous financial year, the company paid a dividend of 5 shillings per share. The dividend and the company's earnings are expected to grow by 5% annually upon restructuring. So required, Roman letter 1, the price of the shares after the right issue, but before they start selling X-Right. Roman letter 2, the theoretical X-Right price of the share. Roman letter 3, the theoretical value of the rights when the shares are selling come rights. So that Roman letter 1, when they want you to get the price of the share after the right issue, but before they start selling X-Right, before they start selling X-Right, before they start selling X-Right. So that price is the same as the CAMRIGHT market price per share. We said that CAMRIGHT market price per share is the price per share before the announcement of the right issue, but before the right issue takes place. So they mention about before they start selling X-Right. So before they start selling X-Right is the same as before the right issue. Before they start selling X-Right, it means it is the same as before the right issue. So that Roman letter 1, what you need to compute is simply the CAMRIGHT market price per share. You simply need to come up with the CAMRIGHT market price per share. So CAMRIGHT market price per share, CAMRIGHT market price per share. So when you want to compute the CAMRIGHT market price per share, so CAMRIGHT market price per share, remember we said that the CAMRIGHT market price per share is the same as market price per share before announcement of the right issue. Market price per share, market price per share before announcement of the rights issue, before the announcement of the rights issue. Then we are supposed to add the NPV per share. We are supposed to add the NPV per share. NPV per share. Net present value per share. Like that. So when you want to compute the CAMRIGHT market price per share, it is supposed to be given by market price per share before announcement of the right issue. Then we add the NPV per share. So to get the NPV per share, net present value, it is supposed to be given by present value of the cash inflows, we minus present value of the cash outflows. So to get the NPV, You simply take present value for the cash inflows. We minus present value for the cash outflows. So when you want to compute the present value for the cash inflows, we need to get the cost of capital. So cost of capital was not given. Cost of capital was not given. So that cost of capital, we have not done the topic of the cost of capital. But I will simply show you how to get that cost of capital. But when we get to that topic, we shall go back and review it. So that question, when you check before required, they say that in the previous financial year, the company paid a dividend of 5 shillings per share. The dividend and the company's earnings are expected to grow by 5% annually. So to compute the cost of capital, we get the dividend that were last paid, 1 plus the constant growth rate. We divide by the current market price. Then we add the constant growth rate. So we have not done the topic for the cost of capital. But now that I'm doing a question on the right issue, I will simply show you how to get that cost of capital for now. But cost of capital is a topic on its own, which we shall be discussing. So I was saying, to get the cost of capital, DO is the last dividend that was paid. DO is the last dividend that was paid. Then this particular PO is the current market price. PO is the current market price. And then G is the constant growth rate. G is the constant growth rate. So going by that, you see the last dividend that was paid when you check in the last paragraph. When you check in the last paragraph, the company paid 5 shillings. So 5, but the growth rate was given as 5%. The growth rate was given as 5%, which is the same as 0.05. We divide by PO. PO is the current market price. When you check in the first paragraph, they say that the company has 1 million ordinary shares trading at 49.50. So the current price is 49.50. Then you also add 0.05. So express that figure as a percentage. Express that figure as a percentage. Then you give me the percentage. Express that figure as a percentage. Then you give me the percentage. So when you express it as a percentage, you are getting which percent?
15.7.
Sorry?
15.7.
15.7.
Yeah.
You can type. There's some noise on my side disturbing. It is which figure? Okay, I've seen 15 points. So we can just have it as 15 points. I'm getting different figures. Someone had given me 15.60. So we can have it as 15.61. So we can have it as 15.61. as a percentage. So once you have done that, you want now to get the NPV. So present value for the cash inflows. So to get now the present value of the cash inflows, so to compute the present value. So present value of the cash inflows. The present value of the cash inflows is supposed to be given by, you take the annuity multiplied by present value interest factor for the annuity. Now the cost of capital is 15.61%. So I want you to confirm in the question, they said that the finance manager has projected that upon restructuring, the company's annual cash inflows will increase by 965,000. So that is meant to be up to infinity because they have not indicated the period. So they have not indicated the period. So it will be up to infinity. N will be up to infinity. So they have not given us the maturity period or it is for how long. They have only said that it will increase by 965 up to infinity. So up to infinity, it is not in the table. Up to infinity, it is not in the table. We say that you take the annuity multiplied by 1 over R, which is the same as the annuity divided by R. If you remember, when we are dealing with the concept of the time value of money, anything up to infinity is not in the table. So our annuity is the annual cash inflows. Our annuity is the annual cash inflows, and that figure is the 965. The 965 that the project is planning to generate. So our R is what we have calculated as 15.61%, as 15.61%, which is the same as 0.1561. So that now should be able to give you what is meant to be the present value of the cash inflows. What should be able to give you the present value of the cash inflows. So anyone who has calculated, you give me the figure. So I can see a figure of 6 millions. 181. Then 935. 935. That is when you round off. 935. So we less present value of the cash outflows. So present value of the cash outflow is the cost of the new project. The amount to raise will be the cost of the new project. That amount to raise will be the cost of the new project. Where they say that to finance the restructuring exercise, the company will require 7 million. So they will require 7,855,000. They require so we are supposed to less the 7 millions. The 7,855,000. 855. 855. So it will give us a negative NPV. So what is that NPV? So I've seen negative. So that's a minute. So you are supposed to get the NPV per share. You are supposed to get the NPV per share. So this one, I'm told it is meant to be 1,673,000. 1,673,065. So to get the NPV per share, you simply take we divide by the number of the ordinary shares. We divide by the number of the ordinary shares. So the number of the ordinary shares, the current ones, you can see up there in the first paragraph, there was 1 million ordinary shares. There were 1 million ordinary shares. They are given in the first paragraph. So this will be the same as negative 1.7 when I round it off, because it is 1.63, so 1.67. So maybe I can just hand it like that. So we get negative 1.67. So after that, you go back up there to get the CAMRIGHT market price per share. You come back to this question to compute the CAMRIGHT market price per share. So to get your CAMRIGHT market price per share, it is supposed to be given by market price per share. So we are calculating the CAMRIGHTs. So market price per share before announcement of the right issue is the same as the current price, which is given as 49.50, which is given as 49.50. So now you add the NPV, which is negative 1.67. So that means you subtract that figure. That means you subtract that figure. So that is now meant to give you what is supposed to be the CAMRIGHT market price per share. So what do we get there as the CAMRIGHT market price per share? So anyone who has computed?
$47.8.
We get 47 point what?
8.
Yeah, so that should be now our Roman letter 1. So let us go to the Roman letter 2, how to get the theoretical X-right price. We can now go to the Roman letter 2, how to calculate the theoretical X-right price. Let us also see how to calculate the theoretical X-right price. Also want to know how to compute the theoretical X-right price. The theoretical X-right price. So theoretical X-right price, remember there were 2 formats. The first one was supposed to be the current market value. Current market value of equity, market value of equity. Then we add the new funds to be raised. Add new funds to be raised. New funds to be raised. Then we divide by existing number of the ordinary shares. Existing number of the ordinary shares. Then we add the new shares to be issued. Number of the new shares to be issued. Number of the new shares. To be issued. Simply add the number of the new shares to be issued. So, current market value for equity. You simply take the current number of the ordinary shares, which are 1 million, multiplied by 49.5. That will be able to give us. So, we also need to get the number of the new shares to be issued. So, number of the new shares to be issued. Number of the new shares to be issued. So number of the new shares to be issued, you are supposed to take the amount to raise. So they want to raise 7.85. Then the off subscription price was 39. So you get 7 million 8. Sorry, maybe I can use, because the question had given you the number of the rights. Because the question had given the number of the rights, we can just use the one for the rights, whereby for every 5 shares, we issue 1 new share. For every 5 shares, we issue 1 new share. So the company had 1 million shares. The company had 1 million shares. So how many new shares were to be issued? When we cross multiply, when you cross multiply, you simply take 1 million multiplied by 1 divided by 5. 1 million multiplied by 1 divided by 5. So when you divide by 5, it will give you how many ordinary shares. So that we should now get the theoretical exit price. So current market value for equity, simply take 1 million ordinary shares. Simply take the 1 million ordinary shares multiplied by the current market price, which is 49.5. That's now what we have as the current market value for equity. But the new funds to be raised was given. The new funds to be raised were given as 7.8. These were the new funds to be raised. Then we divide again by, so I would like to write this figure in full so that it does not confuse you. This 1 million, write it in full. That 1 million, have it in full, because this one is given in full. Then, existing number of the ordinary shares are 1 million. The new shares to be issued are 200,000. So get that particular theoretical exit price. So get that theoretical exit price. So you give me the answer for that. So 47.8. I've seen 47.8. Anyone else who has computed?
47.79.
47.79. So I had shown you a shorter formula for that. I had also shown you a shorter formula for the same, because the question had given you the number of the rights. The question had given you the number of the rights. Alternatively, you do it this way. You see, there were 5 shares. The number of the rights, there were 5. So 5 shares, 5 shares, you value them at the current market price, which is 49.5. You get the value for that. So when you have 5 shares, you acquire 1 new share. So 1 new share, we value it at the offer price. 1 new share, we value it at the offer price. 1 new share, we value it at the offer price. So when you multiply 5 by 49.50, someone to type for me. I've muted everyone because of the background noise. So just type for me. When you multiply 5 by 49.50, so it will be 249.5, 249, sorry, 247.5. Then this one will just remain 39. So when you add, this one should be 6 shares. Then this other one. So when you add 247.5 plus 39, it should give us which figure? So your theoretical X right price so you are getting 47.75. So those figures are almost the same, or they are the same. So that is now your Roman letter 2. How you are to come up with the theoretical X right price. Then finally, Roman letter 3, they wanted you to get the value of the rights. So Roman letter 3, they would like you to get the value of the rights. So Roman letter 3, you are meant to come up with the value of the right. So value of the right, it is supposed to be market price per share minus the theoretical X right price. So there were 3 formulas, but I'm only picking one. So market price per share, it will be, so you take 49.50, 49.50. So the theoretical X right price is 47.75. 47.75. So that should be able to give you a theoretical X right price. The theoretical X right price. So I still want us to do 2 more questions, but for time element, I will only check one more other question. So this one you check May 2017. Go to May 2017. May 2017, question 2, part B. So check May 2017, question number 2, part B. You confirm if we did the question, we go to another one. So check May 2017, question number 2, part B. May 2017, question number 2, part B. May 2017, question number 2, part B. So had we done that question? Mine is on page 53. If you go to page 53, you will see that question. When you check page 53, so we have done that question. So let us go through the question. It is May 2017, question number 3, part B. So that question 3, part B, it reads that Nyanduso Limited is making a 1-for-4 right issue. It is making a 1-for-4 right issue costing shillings 6.4. The company has 4 million shares in issue with a market price of 10.80 per share. The new shares are expected to yield 5% earnings and price earning ratio of 10 times. So now required, Roman letter 1, the theoretical X right price. Roman letter 2, the value per share after the right issue. The value per share after the right issue. So what we need to come up with, the Roman letter 1, we use this shorter formula that we have. The Roman letter 1 will apply this shorter formula because the question had given you the number of the rights. The question had given you the number of the rights. So number of the rights, there were 4. So for every 4 shares, for every 4 shares, so the 4 shares, will value them at the current market price, which is 10.80. Those are for the 4 shares. So for every 4 shares, you get 1 new share. So 1 new share, you value it at the offer price, which is 6.4. It is meant. So this one will remain 6.40. So this one should be for 3.2. So that now should give you the theoretical X right price. So now we go to the Roman letter 2. Roman letter 2 is the value per share. That's the same as the market price per share after the right issue. They would like you to get the market price per share after the right issue. How to get the market price per share after the right issue. So market price per share after the right issue. You want to see how to compute. So we use the concept of the price earning ratio. So we use the concept of the price earning ratio. So price earning ratio is supposed to be given by market price per share divided by the earning per share. So you simply make market price per share to be the subject, where you take the price earning ratio, then you multiply by the earnings per share. So when you want to compute, we apply the concept of the price earning ratio because the question had given the price earning ratio. So what we need to do, because we want after the right issue, this one should be after the right issue. So this one should be after the right issue. So even this earning per share should be after the right issue. After the right issue. So what we should do at the moment is that we know to get the earning per share. Earning per share, it is supposed to be given by earnings available. Available. Then you divide by the number of the ordinary shares. Divide by the number of the ordinary shares. So we need to get the current earning per share. We need to get the current earning per share. So to get the current earning, so this one should be the current earning per share. So to get the current earning per share, we simply take the earnings available, we divide by the number of the ordinary shares. So our current earning per share from this area, our current earning per share from this area, you simply take the market price per share divided by the current price earning ratio. So our current market price per share is 10.80. 10.80. The earning per share is given us, so the price earning ratio is 10. So that should be able to give you 1.08. Be able to give you 1.08. The other thing that you should be able to come up with should be the new shares to be issued. The new shares to be issued. New shares to be issued. New shares to be issued. So new shares to be issued, simply take existing number of the ordinary shares. Existing number of the ordinary shares. Remember, you divide by the number of the rights. Divide by the number of the rights. So the question had given us the existing number of the ordinary shares. There are 4 millions. Number of the rights are 4. So existing number of the ordinary shares are 4 millions. The number of the rights are 4. So when you do that, we end up getting 1 million. So those are now the new shares to be issued. So we want to compute the total earnings. We want to get the total earnings or earnings available. So to get the total earnings, after, we start with the current number of the shares existing number of the shares. There are 4 million shares. Multiplied by the current earning per share. Current earning per share we calculated as 1.08. 1.08. New shares. So earnings on the new shares. The new shares are 1 million shares. The new shares are 1 million shares. We multiplied by the offer price. They were being acquired at 6.4. They were being acquired at 6.04. Sorry, 6.40. 6.40. But the question gave you the yield. You can see the yield. The new shares are expected to yield 5% earnings. So multiplied by 5% to get the earnings on the new shares. So what would happen at that point is that you take 4 millions multiplied by 1.08. So this one should give me 4.32. So this one is 0.32. So when you add, so this one will give you a total of 5 million shares. This one, 4 million shares plus 1 will give you a total of 5 million shares. Then this one will give you 4.64. So that our earning per share. So once we have done that, now we come up to get the earning after. So the after right issue earning per share. So we now get, we are in this region. We are on this particular region. The after earning per share. So earnings available, we take that figure of 6.4, sorry, 4.64 million. Then the number of the shares are 5 million. So you simply take this one by that. So patient, you gave me a figure of 302,000. Is it correct? Is it correct, the 302? Is it 320 or 302? So now that 4.64 divided by 5. So it will end up giving you 0.928. So we are computing. We are now calculating the after right issue. We are now computing the after right issue market price per share. After right issue. After rights issue market price per share. So price earning ratio always remain constant. The price earning ratio always remain constant. We are using that price earning ratio. Remember, it was given as 10. Then this after tax earning per share, we now use 0.928 like that. So when we multiply, so we end up getting a figure of 9.28 like that. So that should now be on how you are to come up with that particular question. So when we meet, I will do one more question on that. I will do one more question on that area. I will do one more question on that bit. So remember, we shall be doing the question. We should do the question for November 2020. We shall be doing the question for November 2020, question number 2. November 2020, question 2. If we have done, you will remind me we do another question before we conclude this topic for the right issue. So we can stop there for today. When we meet tomorrow we have a class. We can do that one last question. If we have done it, I will get another question before we conclude the right issue. Then there are some notes I will send to the class group about working capital management. So make sure that you get those notes on the working capital management, because once we finish the right issue, we shall go to the working capital management. We shall go to the working capital management. Then I will also be able to send you some notes on the sources of finance and introduction to the financial management. Most of you are not in class, so I will send you some notes on, already I'm sending the working capital management. Then there will be the sources of finance, then introduction to financial management. So make sure that you get those notes and you go through them. So I will be forwarding them to the class group today. Now that I don't have anyone physical class, so I will just be sending all of them to the class group. So remember to print them, not to leave them to the group, because sometimes they can be deleted. So you print them and then you go through them. So we can stop there for now. When we meet, I will do 1 or 2 more questions on the right issue, because they frequently test that area. They frequently normally test the area. That's why I failed. I do some more other questions. So we can stop there for today. Unless someone has a question, we can stop there today, unless someone has a question on that. Is it okay to all of you up to that point? Is it okay to all of you? Okay. So we can stop there.